Hello everybody and welcome to my beginner's guide for Warm Snow. I'm Icon and in this video I'm going to go over everything you need to know to enjoy this action roguelike. I'm going to explain the basic controls, the user interface, how combat works, how you will progress in this game, and everything in between. As usual, there's timestamps in the description box below, so if you're looking for a certain topic, head over there and find it, I hope. So, without further ado, let's get started with the basic controls and the user interface. WASD is the basic movement way. Left mouse click is your sword attack. Right mouse click is your projectile attack. You can shoot your swords. When you press R, you can recall those swords to yourself. When you press Q, you can activate an item if you have one equipped. You see here, this meter indicates if your item is activatable or not. Spacebar is a dash called flicker in this game. These are your health pots, activatable while holding down F. And is there anything else? No, I think that's all. So control-wise, the game is pretty compact. If you're looking for something, here you see the completeness. This is really everything. This game does not need more controls. So there we go. If you want to rebind something, you see, it's also possible. Okay, now, combat in this game is quite simple. You have to dodge your enemies, and you have to kill them, obviously. What's interesting about Warm Snow is that your melee attacks are mediocre at best. As you see here, I really don't deal too much damage, and enemies are whacking me terribly. So what we gotta do is, for example, in this technique, my character marks enemies whenever I shoot them with my sword, and the next blow, while they're marked, deals a lot more damage, and I get a cooldown refund on my sword recall. Does that sound complicated? For sure it does. That's because combat in this game is quite hard. Overall, combat in this game is focused about waiting until your enemy is attackable, so their attack animation is down, and then attacking as hard as possible, and don't attack while the enemy is winding up their attacks. There's two types of enemies. There's these small ones like the wolf here, and there's the big ones like this baddie here. I call these normal and elite enemies. As you see here, this dude has a very, very foreseeable attack pattern. Hurts like hell, by the way, if you get hit by that. You dash away, and then you dash in. And as you see here, I'm dealing almost no damage. That's normal for elite enemies. That's because my build foresees that I shoot blades at this dude until he's marked, and then I trigger that. Blades, trigger. Blades, trigger. And then press R for once, and finish him off with that. Combat in this game is not just mashing into your enemy, because that's the easiest way to die. And it's really about understanding the movement patterns of your enemies and using your build accordingly. So for example here, it's really all about this marking and triggering that mark. Otherwise your DPS sucks. And there's a lot of other skills in this game that you can equip, and you always have to utilize your build as good as possible. Otherwise your DPS will be really terrible. And this is something I really like about this game. It is hard, okay? Don't feel bad about yourself if you're messing yourself up at the beginning. But it really gets better the more often you do it. So, for example, you can do such fancy things like that. Throw your blades into some direction and then dash behind the enemies. There's really cool stuff behind it. And combat in this game is therefore a pretty deep thing which you can train, and there's a lot of effort put into that, and I enjoy it. And this is only one possible build. In another version that you can play from the get-go, you can't even fire your blades on your own. They get only fired when you successfully melee attack, which results in a completely different playstyle. Okay, enough about combat. Let's talk about progression and these icons here on the floor. You've seen the other one had these blue flames. That's your gold currency here. This is temporary currency. It's only being used during the run. If you die, it's not going to stay. That red stuff is permanent currency. You'll keep it after your run. The icons here always depict what kind of reward is in the next section. This is healing. This is a skill book. Keep an eye out for books, swords. That's also pretty interesting. If you see a sword icon, this will give you a new weapon, and as you see here right now, we're just wielding an ordinary sword with no bonuses or whatever. If you find a sword icon, it will give you a weapon. And the third one you should be looking out for is a treasure icon. If you see a treasure chest icon, you will get access to a artifact, which is also pretty cool. I hope we can find one during this tutorial. Artifacts will go into these slots. But first, let's talk about the skills. Let me finish off them dudes here real quick. As you see here, the longer you play this game, the more accustomed you grow to your behavior here. By the way, blades can be always picked up on the ground. I haven't told you that yet before, I think. So you don't need to wait for the blade recall. Ow. Just walked right into that. And when that slow-mo enables on the last enemy, or when that slow-mo and zoom-in goes in, you have finished the current path. So, skills here. Choose a new sect skill. They go down here. They're passive enhancers, and they're just good as they are. They come in different rarities. This is just the common rarity. There's a purplish, that's uncommon. There's gold and sparkly one, that's rare. And they're exactly as powerful as this order goes. You can just pick up what you want to go for. It's all random, and it's always depending on your own style. Let's go for the sword icon here. And there we go. As you see with this build, my regular melee attacks are nearly useless. I really have to rely on the marking to deal real damage with my attacks. That's really a cool thing. Definitely what makes this game stand off from its competitors, because this is really a different experience than all the other games in that genre nowadays. Really enjoyed that a lot. Here we go. And here you get a new sword. As you see, new swords have certain intrinsics, like more damages, and they always have a so-called Excalibur effect. Don't ask me why it's called that. So, if you have a certain artifact here, the big bone, they have a chance to trigger these effects. So, one last thing about artifacts, sadly I didn't find one. The cool thing about artifacts is every artifact can be equipped onto one of these slots where it has a totally different effect. It's always like that. Core is more about active effects, power is about enhancing your melee attacks, agility is about enhancing your flicker, and that's dash, and skill, well, that's somewhere in between. That's the miscellaneous tab. The real cool thing is, if you equip your artifact onto the core slot, you can later on pick it up and equip it somewhere else. So you're not fixed in your selections there. The sect skills, though, are fixed, so that's that. That's what you will see during a run. And here, let's talk about boss fights. Bosses, every act has, as far as I've seen, 2 different boss spawns. And here, this wolf, well, you see down there is the HP bar of the boss. And it's really, this is as Dark Souls-like as it gets. The bosses have their own window of opportunity when you can't hurt them, and if you don't respect that, you get wrecked. They all have their own attack patterns that you have to understand, and really don't be ashamed if you fail horribly during the first time. I give you one friendly tip here at the Wolf King while I'm failing this horribly. Your best window of opportunity is during his howl. Here. This is when he's vulnerable. Everything else is just a very, very greedy thing to try. And if you stay away from him, he's starting to dash as well. So, here. That's how bosses work in this game. Every boss is working like that. They have a certain pattern that you have to get behind, understand where their weak spots are, and utilize that. Also, boss fights in this game tend to be quite lengthy, so you have to bring up discipline and train the enemy's behavior to really get it off positively. And boss fights are the spot where you should learn to utilize your build effectively. And after a run, you die, and then this beautiful lady here will laugh at your mistakes. And if you made it good, you get one of these red blobs, and you get to get some permanent upgrades. That's your permanent progression system. You see, the first slots are really, really ridiculous effects. Max HP plus 1%, 2%, 3% attack plus 1%. They are quite similarly. The next tier here, that's one health pot more, that's more healing effect of these health pots. The deeper you go, the more effective these skills go. But it is, as a matter of fact, a design choice in this game to make it stupidly hard for you to make any progression here from the get-go. By the way, if you're wondering, the first red ruby will be roughly acquired at the middle of the after you've beaten the first boss. So you play the prologue, and after the 50% of the stage after the prologue, roughly, you will acquire your first red gem. Generalized. So that's how hard it is to get this permanent currency, and the more you get from these, the better. You will get better stats, you will also unlock different artifacts that you can get there, and there's a lot of stuff that you can unlock down the road, and this does really change your gameplay a lot. And it's meant that you feel puny, weak, and miserable at the beginning, and you have to work yourself out of this hole. So when you're done with your things here, press restart, and then you get into your, well, home base. I really don't understand the background story. Feel free to add in wisdom if you have any. So here you can check out what kind of lore scriptlets you have. You find them sometimes, and here there's also rewards that you will unlock for these. There's a total of 35. Sadly, the localization isn't completed yet at these points everywhere, but there's even more unlockables. I haven't fully understood yet how you get these mementos. The first one I got for beating the first enemy and the first boss for the first time, but there's also a lot of unlockables here. This is the shop which we saw before a moment before. And here, well, you see there's still doors, people worshipping this thing, and there's a lot of progression nodes that we don't have access to yet. Over here, you can select your starting perk, and here we did start out with a flurry skill, like I already showed you. That's the fun with a mark and all. That's the basic passive skill you will always start with. And you can also go for the hidden strike, so instead of shooting flying swords in command, you now shoot a powerful flying sword to the front when you make a melee attack. So this is an alternative that you can go for if you prefer a more melee attack build, more melee attack focused build. And yeah, that pretty much sums it up how this game works in total. And my personal summary of this game is, wow, this is tough as nails. I played Hades, I played very many similar games in this department, and I can't say that I'm a genius in these games. I consider myself a rookie with attitude, like a seasoned average player, and this game is pretty hard in that regard. So if you're looking for a challenge in terms of action roguelikes, games similar to Hades, this game surely serves a good role. The only thing I really didn't like there was how lengthy the combat goes at the beginning of the game. Really a test of patience, discipline, and mental focus too. I mean, that's also, if you like challenge, that's good. I personally don't like this this grindy repetition of movement patterns over a time frame of 5 minutes or more. Maybe it's because I suck at dealing damage, because I haven't learned this, but this is the real get good game, okay? At least from my personal standpoint. And that sums up all I have to say. I really enjoyed my time in this game a lot, and, well, I will return whenever I feel like for a challenge, and when I feel like getting beaten up by a game, because this one certainly fulfills that role well, and it's truly wonderfully crafted. I mean, the art style is magnificent. I really enjoy that a lot, and the enemy design is well made. Really, with that low price, only recommendable. Alrighty, that's all I wanted to say. Drop me your comments down below, leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and of course consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. There's daily content coming up from my side. You only need to hit that notification bell and you'll stay updated. Last but not least, I want to add in the description box down there, you'll also see a link to my Twitch channel where I do regularly stream, a link to my Discord server where you find a like-minded gaming community, and last but not least, links for direct support of this video channel. I'd deeply appreciate if you check them out, but I sure don't mind if you don't. Watching this video to this point and listening to all that rambling here already means a terrible lot to me, and I hope you have a good time, and see you soon. Bye-bye.